Today we will be discussing someone known as the I-95 killer, who targeted a very specific group of men. Gary Ray Bowles was raised in Rupert, West Virginia. His father, a coal miner, sadly died of black lung disease, and his mother remarried several times. Gary was allegedly abused by his second stepfather, a violent alcoholic. His older brother and mother were also victims of this abuse. This abuse continued until Gary was 13, when he fought back and severely injured his stepfather. Shortly after this, Gary left home because his mother chose to remain in this toxic, abusive relationship with stepdaddy number 2. Sadly, Gary was homeless for the next several years and supported himself by selling his body to men. In 1982, Gary was arrested for beating and sexually assaulting his girlfriend. For this offense, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison. In 1991, after his release from prison, he was again arrested and convicted of unarmed robbery for stealing an elderly woman's purse. For this crime, he was sentenced to 4 more years in prison, but was out in the free world again in only 2 years. March 15, 1994, Gary committed his first known murder. He killed 59-year-old John Hardy Roberts, an openly gay insurance salesman who had given Gary a place to stay temporarily. For this good deed, Gary beat and strangled John to death, then stole his credit cards. From the very beginning, Gary was considered a suspect because his fingerprints were all over the crime scene and his probation documents were left there as well. His next victim, David Jarman, an openly gay loan processor, was found deceased in his own apartment. A maintenance employee discovered him on the evening of April 14th after receiving a phone call from Jarman's parents, who were concerned because their son hadn't shown up for work that day. His cause of death was determined to be manual strangulation. Witnesses informed the police that they had witnessed Jarman and another white male walking from a local gay bar in the direction of Jarman's apartment. Gary used Jarman's credit card, ID, and name to rent a hotel room in Baltimore mere hours after killing Jarman. The blue Toyota Tercel belonging to Jarman was located on a Baltimore street and had been ticketed the same day that he had been killed. His next victim differs from his usual target. He was allegedly not gay and older than his usual victims. Milton Bradley was a 72-year-old World War II Navy vet who lived in Savannah, Georgia. Bradley suffered from a head injury from his Navy days and even had a partial lobotomy. Milton was well known in the Savannah area as a gentle soul who helped those in need however he could. Milton's mangled body was found behind a shed at a local golf course with leaves and dirt stuffed down his throat. The next victim, 47-year-old Alverson Carter Jr., was found stabbed to death on May 13, 1994. Albert Morris, a 38-year-old convenience store owner and Gary's next victim, was found gagged, beaten, strangled, and shot in the head. Tragically, his body was discovered by his own parents on May 19, 1994. His final victim, Walter Hinton, a 47-year-old florist, was strangled and bludgeoned to death with a cinder block to the head in November of '94. The unusual signature that Gary used during each of his murders was stuffing items down the throats of his victims. These items include rags, toilet paper, leaves, dirt, and even a sex toy. Police pieced together these crimes and announced that they had a suspect, a man named Gary Bowles. However, they were unable to locate him. They shared this information with the media, put Gary on the cover of a magazine, and added his name to the FBI's most wanted list. Investigators found a pay stub with the name Timothy Whitfield on it, and they reached out and alerted everyone to keep an eye out for Mr. Whitfield. He was finally spotted at the employment office and was promptly arrested and brought in for questioning. He flat out denied everything, but eventually he admitted that he was a wanted man by the name of Gary Bowles. Bowles received the death penalty for his crimes. When questioned about his sexuality, Bowles denied that he was gay and claimed he was a hustler, using older gay men for money. He also stated, quote, "I didn't want to kill nobody, but I did, and I don't know why," end quote. Gary Ray Bowles was executed on August 22, 2019, and left a letter for his mother, which included the statement, "Having to deal with your son being a monster is terrible. I am so very sorry."